Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. Dinhuanet reports that sociologist and international political analyst Decio Machado has raised concerns about a notable shift in U.S. policy toward Latin America. In an interview with Xinhua, Machado warned of growing political, economic, and military interference that he believes could threaten the region's sovereignty. He highlighted a systematic approach combining political pressure, strategic economic agreements, and military cooperation, moving beyond isolated interventions. Machado cited Venezuela, Honduras, Ecuador, and Argentina as examples of this external pressure, also pointing to an increased U.S. military presence in the Caribbean. He suggested Washington is trying to solidify its influence in the Americas, seeing it as its vital space due to a perceived decline in its global power. Interpreting this as an updated Monroe Doctrine, the analyst expressed particular concern over expanding U.S. military involvement in anti-narcotics operations in countries like Mexico and Ecuador, warning these activities could lead to broader surveillance and pose a genuine risk to Latin American sovereignty. Al Jazeera reports that Super Typhoon Sinlaku, the strongest storm of 2026 so far, is bearing down on the remote Northern Mariana Islands and Guam in the Pacific Ocean. On Monday, Sinlaku exhibited sustained winds of 278 kilometers per hour. As of midday Tuesday local time, the storm was approximately 68 nautical miles, 126 kilometers southeast of Saipan, and is moving slowly at 14 kilometers per hour, 9 miles per hour. While forecasts indicate Sinlaku is weakening and may pass the Northern Mariana Islands as a Category 4 or 5 storm, it still poses extreme danger, threatening widespread rain, flooding, and destructive winds capable of causing power outages. Guam is expected to avoid a direct hit but will still experience high winds of up to 64 to 80 kilometers per hour, with gusts up to 105 kilometers per hour, 65 miles per hour, with storm conditions persisting into Wednesday. Authorities have warned Guam's 170,000 residents to stay out of the water due to dangerous sea conditions expected until Thursday. Meteorologists noted that Sinlaku already caused significant damage to Chuuk in the Federated States of Micronesia before heading towards the Mariana Islands. Separately, Australia has pledged $175 million in aid to Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, which were recently hit by Tropical Cyclone Mila, a Category 5 storm that caused floods and landslides, killing at least 11 people. The Canadian press reports that China's exports saw a significant slowdown in March, growing by just 2.5% from a year ago. This marks a sharp deceleration compared to the robust 21.8% export growth recorded in January and February. Analysts attribute this shift primarily to mounting uncertainties stemming from the Iran war, which is affecting global energy prices and overall demand for Chinese products. While exports slowed, China's imports surged by an impressive 27.8% last month, outstripping the 19.8% year-on-year increase in the first 2 months. Economists, including Gary Inn of Natixis, warn that a prolonged Iran war could further weaken global demand for Chinese goods. Elevated tariffs from the U.S. and tensions between Washington and Beijing also continue to strain China's shipments to the U.S., prompting China to boost exports to other regions like Europe, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. With a 2026 economic growth target of 4.5% to 5%, exports are expected to remain a critical driver amid a lingering property sector slump and soft domestic demand. China's export engine significantly decelerated in March, recording a mere 2.5% annual growth, a 5-month low. This figure sharply missed forecasts of 8.3% and was a steep drop from the 21.8% gain seen in January-February. The slowdown is primarily attributed to the war in the Middle East, particularly Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which triggered a global energy shock and complicated Beijing's efforts to sustain economic growth. Natural gas and crude imports saw declines, with Chinese vessels facing disruptions in the strategic waterway. Despite an earlier surge in tech exports fueled by AI demand, the rising fuel and transport costs caused by the conflict have impacted buyers' purchasing power. Conversely, imports surged by 27.8%, marking their best performance since November 2021. The trade surplus for March stood at $51.13 billion, a decrease from the previous period. Factors like the Lunar New Year holiday and a high comparative base from a year earlier also influence the data. This report is from the Asahi Shimbun. J-Press reports that Japan's greenhouse gas emissions in fiscal year 2024 fell by 1.9% from the previous year, reaching a record low of approximately 1,046 million tons in carbon dioxide equivalent. This significant reduction, announced by the Environment Ministry on Tuesday, was primarily attributed to an increased reliance on renewable and nuclear energy sources for power generation. Additionally, a decrease in output within the manufacturing sector contributed to the overall decline. When accounting for absorptions by forests and other carbon sinks, Japan's net emissions also decreased by 1.9%, settling at roughly 994 million tons. This marks the first time since the base year of fiscal 2013 that net emissions have fallen below the 1 billion ton threshold, representing a 28.7% reduction from that benchmark. The Japanese government has set ambitious targets aiming for a 46% emissions cut by fiscal 2030 from the 2013 level, as part of its broader commitment to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.